Okay. Hey everyone, this is John again with HouseLens Pro, and in this video we're going to go over the app. I'm going to show you exactly how to use the app and how to frame a photo, how to take a photo, how to set exposure. We're going to go over how to hold the camera, how high you should hold the camera, and all the mechanics that are required to know when you take a photo for real estate photography. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to do one shot or two shots here of this living room, and I'm going to go through step by step what I'm looking at in the app so that you can follow along. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice on the app is that we've got all these grid lines on the screen. And the purpose of these grid lines is to help us to compose the photo. And in real estate photography, it's really important that you get your verticals vertical. And when I say verticals vertical, what I'm talking about is items in the space that should be vertical. For instance, we're talking about the door jambs, the windows, the sides of the windows, the corners of rooms. All of those lines should be perfectly straight up and down across the entire scene. So what we're doing is we're looking at our grid lines and we're lining them up on these verticals to make sure that our camera isn't tilted down, where you can see now that the grid lines and those other vertical things we spoke about are crossing, or they're not tilted up. So the grid line really just helps us to align our camera so that it's perfectly perpendicular to the ground and we have the correct composition for real estate photography. The other thing we want to look at is how high we have the camera. So a lot of times you'll be in a space and different rooms have different ceiling heights. A good rule of thumb is to have your camera halfway between the floor and the ceiling, and this will give you a good balance between floor and ceiling. In this particular room, we have very high ceilings, so it's not quite necessary to have it halfway between the ceiling and the floor. So we can lower our camera to about chest height. So the only times I would probably have it higher is if I have to shoot over furniture. So for instance, if we're looking at this sofa, you wouldn't want to shoot it this low because you want to make sure that your camera can see over any furniture. So you want to raise it up. Let's see. The other thing you can do is you can back up in the space to show more of the space. So now that we've got our camera height set and we've got our verticals vertical, the last thing we'll want to do is adjust the exposure. So you can see here on the slider on the right side, there's a top slider. From here we can adjust the brightness of the scene. We don't want it too bright where you can't see out the windows, but then again, we do not want it too dark where the room is going to be underexposed. So we're really looking for some middle ground, and this is pretty forgiving because we are going to be taking 3 exposures, and we should be able to capture the entire dynamic range, all the shadows and all the highlights in the space. So this is probably where I would expose this photo, where I have a good balance from the windows and the interior of the space. Okay, now that we've got the exposure set, our verticals straight, and our height correct, the last thing we want to do is take a photo. So because we are taking multiple exposures or multiple shots of the same scene, we'll want to keep our camera as steady as possible. So we don't want to be moving around our hands. We don't want to be shaking the camera. So we want to kind of be as steady as possible. And the best way to do that is to have your elbows tucked into the side of your body. You'll also want to go ahead and hold your breath while you take your photo. And it'll only be for about half a second, but this will guarantee that your body isn't moving up and down as you breathe. Okay, so those are the mechanics for taking a photo. We're going to apply the same technique for every single photo that we take.